Hey, what's up, everybody? Clayton gets once again joined by my, beautiful co-host. I have a hard time being in proximity. But that is the name of our podcast, Proximity Podcast. Welcome. I am as excited about this podcast as I have been anything that we've done so far.
Yeah, me too.
And so we have Lori Eubanks with us today. And Stephanie, I'm going to let you kick us off, telling us a little bit about Lori.
Okay, so Lori Eubanks is here. Eubanks, right? Is here locally in Richmond. She has built an impressive team and brand since 2012. This is when she got started in this industry. Starting out with a financial background at Capital One, buying one house at a time to flip or rent while juggling her full-time career and raising a family. Since those early days, she has been able to build a sizable and impressive multi-million-dollar real estate business. She's created a team of wholesalers, agents, project managers, contractors, and designers to get each job done quickly and efficiently. She has an impressive track record as a rehabber, landlord, wholesaler, Airbnb host, owner, and lender. She currently has 71 long-term rentals and 14 Airbnbs.
And 5 little ones.
And 5 kids.
Come on, Lori.
And single mom. It's absolutely amazing. And I want to mention just two of her local stats here, I guess you could say, because we're going to get into all this here in just a second. But two of her big projects that she has going on, she has a retreat located right outside of Richmond, and it's been one of her most profitable deals. It was purchased at a discount and in some disrepair. She purchased this property with the hopes of turning it into a corporate retreat. Then happened COVID, and that changed everything. She pivoted to the Airbnb model, allowing families to take vacations in a safe and secluded environment with all the amenities of a resort. This home boasts a main house, guest apartment, pool, hot tub, sauna, game room, outdoor bar, gym, tennis, pickleball court. It sleeps 16 and is constantly booked at a nightly price of anywhere between $1,500 and $3,000 a night, with a record monthly income of $46,000. That's amazing. Cannot wait to dig into that one. Yeah. And she also is in the middle of rehabbing this property. It's in Richmond. Is this the one that's outside of Maymont Park that you're telling me about? Okay.
Yeah.
It is a 1920 Tudor Revival. It's currently undergoing a massive historic renovation with an expected finish date of 2024. This beautiful mansion boasts 8 bedrooms, 7 baths, and over 7,500 square feet. It's perched on the top of a hill overlooking the James River. Lori and her team of designers and project managers and contractors are working tirelessly to get an elegant and classy refit of this amazing home. The purchase price was $1.16 million. The expected renovation cost of $350,000 with a targeted sale price of $3.5 million.
So awesome.
Yep. I like to start with these stats. So people understand that, they may not know who you are, and they're like, well, who is this person? Why should we listen to her? You should listen to her because her track record says it all. And it's one of the reasons we were so excited to pull you in. One of our guest on this podcast, Dustin Olverson, was the one that connected us to you.
Oh, great!
And we've been very inspired by him with all that he's done with real estate investing here in Richmond. And he was like, "You got to talk to my girl Lori Eubanks." So here we are.
Yes.
That's awesome.
Let's go.
Oh, thank you, Dustin.
Yeah.
So Lori, tell us about you. I'd love to hear, just your story. Like how was that transition from Capital One into real estate? So it's Proximity Podcast. So proximity is nearness in space and time. So, who was there someone that inspired you to make that, that transition, if you will? So tell us a little bit more about Lori.
Yeah. So it has been a journey. And it's amazing because when you read that stats, that's from a few months ago. So now I'm thinking, we added a commercial building, and, it's just, it's been a wild ride and really picking up here. We're just attracting so many great abundance of deals. And it's really from, y'all having me on podcasts and just going out in the community, and people start sending good things your way. But I started back in 2012. I had been at Capital One for quite some time. I was a young mom in 2012. I had 3 little kids, and they were all under 5, and what it takes to, and so at that time, we went on one income, and we're like, what are we going to do? It's sink or swim time. So, one night on Google, found the real estate groups and went to one of the local RIAs. There's always a RIA in every community.
Can you break that down? What's a RIA?
It's a real estate investor association.
Okay.
I think it's something like that.
Yep. Okay.
I could be wrong. And I try to make those meetings because it brings new, experienced everyone together. And they're usually free. So I went to that, and I just found some people that really stood out local, and they spoke their truth, and they talked about not just the good times, but the hard times. And so I took someone out to lunch,
from that group,
and like, just tell me everything, and like, how can I help you? And that was such a powerful thing to ask, because
so you asked this person, man, woman, do you mind saying the name?
Multiple people.
Okay.
Yeah. Like, I would take out Brian Rhodes, Greg Butler. They've been in the game for a very long time. And I'm like, please let me just take you out. I'm like, I'll do anything. Can I be your intern? And they're like, no, we're too busy. So a lot of people that are really successful, they did take time. They poured into a lot of people, but that takes a lot of time and effort. And you never know if someone's going to work out. And I think they were in growth mode. But, asking how can I help you and staying consistent in those groups. They gave me the advice, go out and just make offers that are ridiculous, that you're embarrassed to offer. And, don't make an offer unless you're embarrassed. So that translated like, okay, I'm just going to pull up Zillow and, offer half price on everything, call the agent, let them represent me, and they can get both sides. Like, I don't care about the commission, and that really, finally I hit gold. It was in Hanover, 2012. It was like an estate probate situation. So they wanted 65, and it was a 3-bedroom rancher on an acre lot on Georgetown Road in Mechanicsville. And so we offered like 30, and they called and they were like, your offer's ridiculous, which is what you're supposed to hear. But they'll do 35. And I was like, oh, snap, but other words. And I was just like, this is crazy. So at that point, you're like, well, what do I do now? So, I'd go to those meetings like, I got one. Now what do I do? And like, really just taking it step by step like that. Figuring out how it's a deal. Like, obviously that's not how you offer. You don't go out and offer half price, but, now we offer, on a calculation, 70% of the ARV minus repairs. If it fits, we buy it. I mean, why not? If it cash flows more than $300 a month, then we want to keep it, because that's going to give us the long-term capital gains. So we really just realized, okay, we're going to flip it. We started demoing. We found mold. We found fire. We found termites.
No wonder they were willing to sell it for
things. Yeah,
they knew.
There was like 6 or 7 heirs and a couple. I think one was homeless. It took 9 months to buy it. So I'm just like waiting around, making plans. The first deal. So it was a full gut. So I buy it, borrowed private money. Gutted, found out all these things, and then the city realized, oh, you didn't pull permits, so you're shut down. Got a stop notice, and then the contractor took my money and ran. So it was like everything that could happen on this first deal. It was a little scary, like working, getting off, picking up the kids, taking the kids to this dilapidated hazard home, like having them in the van while you run through, get your game plan. And it was definitely a roller coaster where I was like, what am I doing? I'm questioning everything, Finally, we get through it with a lot of support in the community. I mean, I had so many investors come over and like just reassure me, like,
these are the people you met in the RIA.
Yeah. Okay. So it was great. Chris Jefferson, he's local. And, he walked it, said, yeah, I think your game plan's great. Gave some feedback. And that was just great for me going through that. So,
validation.
Yeah, it was amazing. So you had all the support, and that was the best thing when you can share the good and bad and ugly, everything. And people don't think it's all roses. Like you got to be ready for that, you know, roller coaster.
Oh, yeah.
So we were done. We overspent on our budget. Shocker. You know, like we get through it. The city now, you know, at that point they knew my name, and they helped me through a lot of things. So that was great. So we're done, and I'm like over budget. And my realtor, which was Leah Coleman, her sister, younger sister, was like, we're best friends from high school. So, you know, found out she was in it. So when she came over, she's like, girl, you could throw this on the market and make $500 a month on cash flow. And you have a corporate job. Just go out and get, you know, I went to Truist. Just go out and get an investor loan and do a cash out refi. So at that point, I'm like, okay, you know, I'm struggling. Like we're struggling to make all of our payments, the house, the utilities, like the kids, everything. And so at that point, we're like, okay, well, what are we going to do next? Let's do that. You know, let's pay off the investor, put a little money in our pocket and cash flow it. So we realized like how powerful that pays all the utilities this bill, how this month, you know, how many of these do we need? So, you know, light bulb went off. We kept it. So it was intended on a flip. We kept it and then bought another and flipped that cosmetic easy deal, you know? That was an easy one.
Meaning, like, all you had to do is maybe paint the walls, paint the cabinets.
Flooring. Very nothing. We're not opening up the wall at all.
And this is the second one?
Second deal.
May I ask how much you spent on that one?
Yeah. So the first deal, I think we spent over 70 at least on that rehab. It was a massive rehab.
Yes.
I mean, we took it apart in every way possible. We kept that rental for 5 years and flipped small cosmetic deals that, you know, maybe they only made 30 grand. They were small hits, but that 30 made a difference in our family.
Oh, yeah.
And then we're like, okay, well, now we have enough. We can buy another and keep one for rent and refi that one. So our plan was to grow very slow and steady. But then we found portfolio buying where you could just buy 10 at a time, already rented. They're cash flowing already from the day of purchase.
Okay, can you pause there for a second?
Yes.
Because this, I remember you telling me about this and I was like, this is brilliant. Explain that, portfolio buying, and like, how do you come across that?
Yeah. So, you know, growing slow is great because you're still building wealth. But we were like, we wanted to be very comfortable to where the income would replace Capital One income. And then I would just leave and I would have so much freedom with my kids, able to do all the things. And so 2015, I was looking for more creative seller financing deals. And so I was just driving a neighborhood and I saw a sign that said 100% financing. And it was just really a mortgage advertisement. But that mortgage broker said, well, I know someone who's seller financing. And I mean, it was that easy. Just one phone call. He connected me with the agent. They gave me a list of 50 and just said, pick 10 and we'll seller finance up to 10 properties to you.
Wow.
And, you know, I mean, I'm just floored at that point because like all I had to do was ask. You know, they didn't even check my credit, anything.
That's
no
huge right there.
Bank statements, nothing.
No way.
Yeah, nothing.
So what? So was this these seller financing deals? Was this a multifamily?
No,
these are
single
still
family.
single family. So. Was this one person that owns Minnie?
Yes. So it was one guy. He was retiring. He had been a landlord for 30 years. And his name is Carl. He's amazing. I mean, what we've done today is crazy. So he originally gave me his list and I picked 5 that were the top cash flow properties. And this is all Northside 2015. So think about Barton Avenue, picked it up for like 80 to 100 all around Northside. These bigger properties.
Oh my goodness.
So I picked 10 and he gave me 5-year financing. 5 I thought had the top equity and 5 were the top cash flow. But they all cash flowed and they were all currently rented. So he just needed 10% down. So I think at that time it was like $780,000 for 10 properties around Northside.
Oh my gosh.
And so I mean it was amazing because now some of these properties are going for $400 to $500.
Oh yeah,
a piece.
So if you're listening to this and you're not familiar with the north side of Richmond, it's been a very hot area, a growing area for a long time. The property values continue to increase. Our kids go to Veritas over there, which is a private school on the north side of Richmond. And we know because we see these, as soon as a property comes up, it doesn't stay on the market long.
Yes.
It's sold fast.
Yes. Yeah.
And everything is going up in value over there.
Yeah. And now I can sell them as is, without work if I want
Wow.
to, so building it up to today, that was the first time I bought, from Carl. When I refinanced him after a year or two, he was like, well, here's the rest of my list. Pick 10 more. So me and Carl, we did, I think 26. Oh, he sold me 26
Does Carl
of his.
have any more real estate he wants to sell?
But, when I paid him off, I'm like, so Carl, what are you going to do now? He's, retired engineer, now retired landlord. And that's what he did. He built up when he worked, Yep. And so he shared a lot. I would ask him questions. He would, pour into into me all the knowledge that he had. And so today he is now one of my biggest private lenders.
No
and we
way.
also co-lend together. So we'll wrap money. So people in my circle, they need a deal. They need money for a deal. Maybe they need $100,000 and my IRA has 20,000. So my IRA can do 20, Carl can do 80. I'm lending at maybe 11 or 12 and Carl's okay lending at 9. So that difference on the spread is on the full 100,000. Okay. So, wrapping money, so that one investor over, the last one relationship has given me over 50 loans we've co-funded on other people, 26, and then many loans just directly to me. So, that one person.
Yeah.
And nowhere else are you going to get that kind of return on your dollar just sitting in an IRA. Like that's not going to earn you that percentage. So you're getting the benefit of lending that money out and having that high percentage paid back to you, over how long are you lending that money for? 90 days,
Yeah.
Is it usually 90 days?
It depends. So most of our loans will give a year.
Okay.
Because some people want to buy, fix it up, flip it, or they want to hold it long term. And, Carl doesn't mind, going longer because, he's earning interest. It's less work.
Yeah, of course.
When we do a deal, Carl might get a point or two. And so, it's very enticing for him. So it's changed his life. It's changed our lives. And that's one person out of so many. So we've also gone to Quest events. If you're familiar with Quest, they're a self-directed IRA company out of Texas.
Yeah. So that's where we just moved all of our,
Oh, so y'all
Blake knows. I didn't know.
Yeah.
Most of our private lenders are using them to do their own deals and self-fund, investments like real estate. And so their group, they have, annual expos and people come together. My girl Martine, she made us t-shirts that said, we have deals, we need funds. And people would just come up and hand you business cards. Do good business and people spread the word. So, when we started buying in 2015, we realized the power of the portfolio buying. And so we've done maybe 5 or 6 big portfolio purchases. I think the biggest was 14 or 16 properties.
And these are, when you're buying these 14, are these more like single family properties?
They're all single family.
Okay, I didn't know. Have you done any?
Some duplexes, actually, yeah. And then we're flipping in between. So it's like we're balancing it all. Yeah.
So that was actually a question that I had is how are you deciding what you're going to keep versus what you're going to sell?
Oh, so it's very different today than it was a year ago.
Even a year ago,
evictions are up. I mean, we had 8 cases for eviction court this week, and it's
These are your properties.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it's because we're buying them already rented. So you need to be aware that when that happens, they're looking for a reason to either not pay if they were bad tenants or, some things just don't work out. You have to be ready. You have to have the nest egg. And unfortunately, COVID, a lot of people, they really went into those programs and they got paid up, which is awesome. But we kind of knew this was going to come on the second round. And there are more programs open today than there were like 6 months ago. And so now people are going through that. And then you have to like go to court and, you hire an attorney. But at the end of the day, you still have to go to the final. So it's just interesting. Learning all of that is having good people, having the good attorney, having great title company or an attorney in that space, and then working on your foundational items. So when you're growing a portfolio, you have got to do your foundation items. You have to do QuickBooks, something on accounting. Like that is a huge thing. That was a big learning. Where you can classify each charge to a property. Something as you're growing, you don't want to worry about fixing your back end, having a faulty foundation. So I would say that's a big thing. And then property management. We are not the best. We've bought them and we've done good at using free resources like apartments.com for like all the accounting and rent collection. And you could even do maintenance requests through apartments.com. So using that as like a big, project management while we're finding the right place to put it. So today we're trying out like 5 or 6 property managers. It's like, well, who's going to be the one?
Wow.
Because we're just so scared we've worked up, building this. It's hard to give it to someone until that big of a transition.
Sure. And so are you looking for all of your properties to be moved to a property management? All of them or just part of them?
So two parts of that. So why have you considered managing them yourself, like starting another division?
Yes. So it's really the volume and the fact that we want to do bigger deals. So every year since 2020, we've bought a mansion. And, this mansion we're working on now, we hope to make $1 million profit. And, we could buy more properties, but that is going to create a whole nother job. And right now, to do so much, you need to delegate. You got to ask yourself, well, if they can do it 80%, maybe it's not full how you would want to do it or like to, like that can all be tweaked. But if they can do it, 80% or better, give it to them, hire it out.
Who did we hear that from, honey?
The delegation thing?
Yeah, if they can do it. It was actually 75% was his number. Who told us that?
Blinking.
That was John Maxwell.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah. So John Maxwell actually told us we wrote a $30,000 check to go spend a few days with him in a very intimate group. And one of the things he said was, if I can delegate someone a job and they can do it at 75% of what I could do it, he said, I'll give it to them all day long.
And it's so hard because when I jumped into this business, it was sink or swim. It was hustle mentality. So as I've built it up, I'm okay not to be that hustle mentality, but it's hard mentally for every entrepreneur to get out of that. That's how you started. That's how it worked. So you've made
not
it.
wanting to have your hands in everything, but I mean, you can't. There's just no way. And that's why I asked the property management question, because we ask this question of ourselves all the time. My question is always, what is the lever that we can pull that if so by pulling that lever, everything else becomes easier or unnecessary, right? And so for you, it's deals. And so thinking about, it sounds like you've come to this conclusion, thinking about starting a property management company, which is a whole nother animal in itself, when you could just continue to focus in this lane, which you know you can make money, you know how to find deals. I love that. And I think that's a great lesson to other people that are, including us, that are doing like this, right, with their time.
It's a lot. And then you put on like personal things and like the whole reason we got into this.
Then there's that. Yeah.
So, I mean, the whole reason we got into this was for freedom, to spend planned it with the family. We had different goals. And then you get into the deals and you're like, oh, this is great. But there's a lot of back end to it. So I love making deals. I love problem solving. I love meeting people like Carl and like changing their lives, changing the way they're investing, or, you know, how they're going into their next phase. So like that's my genius. So why would I spend time on all the other things that I'm not even great at? So I've really had to like, my partner is the one who's like constantly giving me feedback, because he sees that. He's like, you know, he'll remind me all the time. Like that's not why we're doing this.
You mean your partner being Carl?
No. So Carl's,
I know you have lots of partners.
Yeah. And I mean, that's the best part. If you do business with smart people, you're going to take on their wisdom, right? Like
proximity.
It really does lead on to you. And then they encourage thinking bigger, you know, doing bigger things. So Eric, my partner, and we have a 1-year-old together.
Yes.
And he's just...
Oh, your partner.
Yes. Partner.
I had business partner in my mind.
Right. He's always reminding me, because he sees it. And, you know, when I talk to him about like, oh, you know, I really would love to do this commercial deal, which is one we just did. He's like, yeah, that would be amazing. Like we should, you know, and he will encourage that. So being around the right people, and let's say your partner isn't encouraging, like my parents, my mom, she would call me and tell me to stop buying. And my dad would be calling me, you know, in the other room saying, don't listen to her.
Bye.
Keep buying.
Really?
So I knew I can't.
That actually happened?
Yeah. So growing, like, oh, I'm going to talk to my mom. The conversation would be different, you know, and talking to my dad, he'd encourage it. So I knew. So like when you are dating someone, not everyone is going to see the bigger picture. Some people are going to be scared for you. And you have to learn.
And that's scared out of concern.
Your
mom was probably worried that you're going to get into your
100%.
head, like not because she didn't want you the best for you.
That's
there's
right,
also, and this is not your mom, but there are people out there with limiting beliefs, right? You know, fixed mindset versus growth mindset.
That's right.
Where, you know, you're going out and doing something that makes them feel uncomfortable, and they're not necessarily going to get behind that. And I think it's really important, to your point, to spend time. We were talking about this yesterday, to spend time with people that are going to like encourage you to flip and go for it.
Yes, go
right?
for it. And that's what happened in 2020. So I didn't know Eric yet, but I did call my dad a couple of times on this one. But, you know, I went to this Quest Expo and I got really inspired by a conversation. I don't even think he knows how much he changed my life. And so it's this investor. His name's Casey. I won't throw him out there, but we were at a Quest event and I'm like, Casey, you own all these like mansions. We started the same year. Like, what did you do different? Like, I really just want to know your secret. And he's like, well, there's no secret. Like, the $4 million mansion, I would call them and offer them $1 million and ask for seller financing. And he's like, they would almost say, you know, yes every time. And I'm like, what? That doesn't make any sense. Like, okay.
Tim, are you taking notes?
I'm like,
do you have a script for that? Can I use your script, please?
You just asked.
Just asked. Like you didn't need one. It was just that easy. So I'm like, okay, well, you know, so when I came home, I'm talking to my friend Ryan. He's an investor. He's also an agent. We've done a lot of deals together. I mean, I don't even know how many. But I was talking to him about what Casey told me. And I'm like, listen to this. How does this sound? And he's like, well, he pulls out his laptop, pulls up MLS because he's an agent. And we call like the $1 million and up properties, talk to the agents. And we're like, you know, we're thinking about seller financing. Would you all be open to it? And I think 90% of them said yes. And we were like, this is real? Casey was real.
So awesome.
So at that point, we're like, okay, well, we can't buy all these. You know, it has to make money. Like we worked really hard. If you did one big deal that didn't work out, it could wipe you out, right? So I'm still like taking calculated risks. So we looked at this one property in Glen Allen, and at the time, this was actually 2019, we had built up quite a big portfolio where at that time, you know, I was finally left Capital One. So I stayed at Capital One working 40-hour work week up to, I want to say like 2016 or 17, I finally left. And I stayed way too long.
Tim, you listening to this?
I stayed way too long.
Guess where Tim works?
Oh, does he? Yeah. I mean, I loved it because, I
might have to scrub that part out.
I mean, it really was great because it did support me when I needed it. And also they paid for my college. I have an associate's degree, paralegal, where I've used contracts, throughout this whole career. So, really they helped me get there. But 2019, I was free from them and, I had more time. So we did try that and we found this one in Glen Allen. I think it was listed for $799 and they said yes to seller financing. It had a pool, hot tub, sauna, tennis courts, all these recreational things. So we're thinking, well, a guy doesn't live there. I wonder if he'll give us all his furniture and he's got cool wine fridge and stocked, like what else, art and, So we made an offer, $799, everything. We wanted the wine bottles, everything.
Well, can you tell the story real quick? Because Lori was just telling us this story right before we started the podcast today, and it is hilarious. So tell about the art.
Yeah.
That is really
the
funny.
Art, we didn't know this because we didn't even go to these properties. We're negotiating before we're even looking at them, right? Wow. And one of the art, so we offered $799, everything included, and he said, "You're ridiculous. The art alone is worth $2 million." They have original Picassos, and they named some others, and they had a sensor to the frame of the art to the wall, and the home had been vacant for 3 years. Wow. And so with every divorce this guy had, he had to sell a mansion, and he was on. It's just interesting. It was a beautiful property. But he did say we were ridiculous. We're not accepting that.
Which is what you were looking to. You want to hear that?
We want to hear that. So he said, "You're ridiculous." And our response was, "Okay, well, what can you do?" And that's such a powerful question because he's like, "Well, we can do everything but the art." And
because that alone was worth, are you allowed to say?
He said over $2 million, the art.
Just the art.
Yeah. Just the art. It was worth more than the house and a vacant property that, for 3 years. So we bought it. We saw that we could do corporate. So let me back up. We did find out because of the divorce, he could not do seller financing. So that was the whole reason we thought we could do it. Our regular lenders are doing like $100,000 per deal. Who's going to finance a large purchase like this? Right. So at that point, I told Ryan, my agent, it's not going to work out. We can't do this. He's like, "You're being ridiculous. You didn't even ask anybody and you're saying we can't do this." So for me, that was a huge moment because I'm like, "You're right." I asked the first lender said yes. And I did have to put some personal funds in it, like more skin in the game. But, and then COVID hit 2020. So, this is like, we purchased it January 2020, COVID hit and shut us down.
Because you were going to buy this for a corporate retreat, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
And I'm like,
then you're like, ooh.
Who's going to spend money on corporate retreats during COVID?
Right.
So we took a few months. We opened the pool. Everything hadn't been used in 3 years. So it did need some repair. I think we spent about $40 total that year on it, getting it, in bunk beds and adding some things. And when we listed on Airbnb for $800 a night, it booked right up.
Wow.
So then you're like, okay, we need more.
Yeah. So then I'm thinking, wow. So we increased it to, I think, like $1,400 a night, and it was still booking. Wow. And these were people are like, all the pools are closed. They want to get together as a family. The neighborhood was not happy at first because they were like, not in my neighborhood kind of feel. There was no HOA, and that was the reason we were excited about it. But the neighbors complained when a group of women got together and they were extra loud, and the neighbors at that point started complaining. So we had to, at that point, step in and, take out all the speakers and add a Ring doorbell, learned the game.
Yes.
And now there's so many people that can help you learn the game. But at that point, it was trial and error, big property, like people want to have gatherings. And so we put no events, no, but for the neighborhood, you could have a gathering for the day. And so that's
you allow
how
the
we
neighborhood
found
to have a gathering for the day now, using that house.
Yes. So they can rent it from us for just the day. Their kids are graduating. They want to have family over. Maybe they want to rent it for their family. So now they see us as a resource.
Love that.
And we're on smart pricing with Price Labs now, which is a game changer. And Price Labs, I think we're up to $3,000 or $3,500 a night. So
on that property,
on that one property. So
that is amazing.
So we're in our third year, and some people are repeats. They're coming back. These are families that are like, it's our annual trip. Like some are coming from DC, some are coming from Virginia Beach, and you're our middle ground. Who would have thought? In Glen Allen, 2 miles off the interstate. And it's your own personal retreat.
Well, it's a really, really neat property.
Yeah.
So I really love this question because, I don't, what motivates you? Like what kind of keeps you, because I know you're busy, you've got five kids, you have a lot going on. So what drives you at this point to just, to stay in the game, to grow? That's first question. Second question is, where are you going? What's the vision for this?
Oh yeah, we have some cool stuff coming. So the first question, my why, is the kids, the legacy, the family. I've always wanted to have a place where the whole family comes together. Maybe we do our family events, having that, providing it for your family is huge. So now the kids are helping us in the business.
I was going to ask that too.
Yeah.
That's great.
So we have 5. We have 1-year-old. We have a 7-year-old girl. And then we have 13. I'm sorry, let me back up. So,
what are their names?
Trick question.
There's just too many of them. No, but seriously, it's so funny because, now the older ones are in teenage years. So 12, 14, and 16, which is so crazy. We're driving now. And so, the 14 and 16-year-old are interested because they've seen the change. So in the last year, we actually moved down the street from y'all.
So cool.
And we're on 11 acres, and we've always lived on top of each other in a regular house in a neighborhood, which it wasn't like it was a terrible place, but now when you look out the window, you see land and nature and deer and, bald eagle, it's just crazy. So the experience for them, it has really been like just life-changing for me.
Is your mom, I'm sorry, honey, is your mom still saying, slow down, stop buying?
So now every time she sees me, she wants to know how many properties we have and all these stats. And I'm like, I always tell her, I'm like, I don't know how many, Mom, because, it's just so funny. But yeah, she's our biggest cheerleader. And it's definitely huge. So now, we just bought our first commercial building. And, when I told them, I thought they would be like, oh, I can't believe that, because it's downtown, Shockoe Bottom. And it's a bigger deal. So a wholesaler called, and they had an opportunity. It's on Main Street, downtown Richmond. And this is like a very... the farmers market, they have a lot of little events there, a lot of restaurants, nightlife, and you can walk to all of that. And a wholesaler called and said that it's a storefront on bottom and 2 apartments up top. And when we went to look at it, I thought it was going to be like dilapidated. We're going to have to do a lot of work. And he said, if I can get it all in for $600, would you want it? And I'm like, yeah, it sounds good. I don't really... I don't know, but I'll review it, let's do it. So he gets it. And, I did my 70%, on that. And then I looked at what other buildings were selling for. And then I looked at it from the income perspective. So I did like 3 checks on that because it was something new. I wanted to be sure. So a big thing that we're doing is we're buying in opportunity zones.
Yes.
And that's an opportunity zone. So for those that may not know, if you buy and hold an opportunity zone and you put, the right amount of work into it, and it's in the correct LLC, there's like a bunch of little things to make sure it qualifies. But you hold it for 10 years and it's tax-free when you sell it.
Yeah.
So we have 20-something properties in our opportunity zone now. And that's our future retirement, which is like just 8 years away now.
Yes. Yes.
And that's amazing.
Yeah.
Because you're very young.
Yeah. Well, thank you.
You are.
I like to think that too.
Yes. So how, if for listeners that are, say where you were in 2012, just jumping in, how do you find out where the opportunity zones are?
It's just a map. If you just Google it, opportunity zone interactive map. It's a government site. You just type in the address and you can zoom out and look at the zones. And so anytime we're buying any deal that's sent our way, we look it up on the map. And it doesn't mean like we're going to buy it, or not buy it. But if the numbers meet, it's just a bonus. Wow. So we just know, okay, we're buying it. It goes to this LLC to make sure it's in the opportunity zone. And that's important, just learning when you're in that analyzing, we threw it in with that, So this building was in the opportunity zone. So I cannot imagine, what it's going to be in 10 years to have two luxury apartments upstairs.
Yes.
And we're zoned for Airbnb and all of that business. So it's protected. I mean, it's just like gold.
Yeah.
Gold.
And so that's what we're doing. We're trying to buy one big deal a year at least. And thinking bigger is such a big deal.
Yes.
Where did you learn to do that? There's not so many people really lack, I don't know if it's confidence in themselves to think big like that. Where did that come from?
Oh, I don't know if it's got to be my dad. So he was the one that, was buying real estate when my parents got together. They would buy, and then when they moved, they would keep it and hold it. And so I knew that was a potential, but I really believe it's who you talk to. So if I'm calling my dad and saying like, hey, do you think we can do it? And he's like, yeah, do it. So I just signed an NDA, so I'm not supposed to talk about it, but we're working on a very big deal. And if this works, or when this works,
There you go.
we could potentially make, 5 to 10 million on this one deal. And my dad also signed the NDA. So I talked to him about it. And it scared him a little bit, where he's like, I'm just not sure. So I'm like, well, let's give you a presentation about it. Yeah. So we did, and he's like, yeah, let's do it. Let's get that. And it's just like, okay, well, all you need is like a few people. Maybe it's not your family. Like, we were very blessed to have that growing up. But as long as you find someone like that, and for me, it's been Martine, Leah, my partner, Eric, like just people I'm doing business with, interacting daily with. And that matters.
Oh, it matters
because
so much.
If you're not touching, but like once every 6 months, you're not going to have that encouragement to do bigger things. And that one idea that maybe we thought about it a year ago, it kind of just came back up. Now to have a potential profit like that is huge to get the encouragement.
That is amazing.
Yeah.
Wow.
Thank you.
Wow.
So, it's so powerful what you just said, because, I'm a part of a group called Let's Talk.
Okay.
And it's a group of black men and women, group of white men and women, and the whole concept of the group is to bring people together, right?
Oh, that's awesome.
And so one of the things that we're working on is there's this cycle that many minorities are caught in, where they don't know how to break free. Like they're born into a situation. It may be poverty, it may be abuse, it may be whatever. But they don't know, so the cycle repeats. And so what you just said about getting around the right people, but in some cases you have to seek it out. You have to be you have to know that it exists. Yes. So one of the things that we're working on in this group is how to bring people, into these communities. And we have, there are mentors and there are, people like that. But how do you bring financial literacy? How do you bring investing? How do you invest? Because you came from like zero
Yeah.
to where you are today in a very short period of time. And I've always looked, you know, like what inspires me about talking to you so much is I've always looked at people in this way. I'm like, dude, if you can do it, so can I. Yeah. Right. And I want people to look at this, you know, the little bit of success that we've had and say the same thing.
Yeah.
Right. And so having those people in your corner that are like, dude, go do it. Like, you got this. As opposed to the opposite of not so sure.
Yeah.
You can do that.
Yeah.
But, right. We need to kind of distance ourselves in some cases from people like that because they'll hold us back.
Yeah. And it really is out of love, which is kind of crazy, you know? And I mean, look at what they used to teach people. Curiosity killed the cat, right? Like teaching the kids not to be curious. I mean, keeping you in the box. And so like what we're trying to teach our kids is that legacy, you know, not only how to manage what we're building, but also that type of thinking. So, I mean, that's really important. So
if you're watching this, to me, I mean, you dropped so many incredibly valuable nuggets throughout this entire podcast today. Drop what you've learned today in the comments. And I'm going to say, you know, just off the top, I was writing down some notes here of the things that I have that really stuck out to me that I don't even know if you knew you were saying it, but what I heard from all that you've said is you've taken risks to contribute to your success. So you've taken risks. You always ask. You don't let fear stop you. You found a mentor. Even if you don't have one, you go find it. You have gotten in the room, which is the whole premise of this podcast, Proximity Podcast. You never take no as an answer. You always find a solution. When somebody tells you no, you figure out a way to make it happen anyway.
Yeah, and it might be just not right now. You
right.
know? Maybe it's later.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
That's just so amazing. I love that.
Yeah. So no, I could spend all day.
I know, me too.
With Lori. So hopefully there's going to be a part two to this.
Yeah,
but
yeah,
you know, you're amazing. Like you're going to inspire a lot of people.
Yes.
I told you I was raised by a single mom, and I know you have a partner now that's there supporting you. But what you've been able to do, you know, kind of on your own is incredible, Lori.
Thank you.
And yeah, absolutely. And I just hope that that this episode absolutely goes viral, and that single mamas all over the world understand what's possible, and everyone for that matter understands what's possible when you get in the room with the right men and women that are where you want to be. And it's amazing because they didn't have to help you.
No.
Nope.
But they do. Like, you know, people do. Like people that
do want to help overall.
People that are successful.
People want to help.
Yes, and that's the amazing thing about being an entrepreneur. So thank you so much for carving out some time to spend with us. It was truly a pleasure.
Yes.
And just don't forget, man, you got to seek out the relationships. You got to get in the room. Proximity matters. We'll see you next time.